Hello everyone, my name is Kasia Gooden and I would like to present about the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act, also known as CAPTA, that was written into law in 1988 and has been amended multiple times, most recently in 2016. CAPTA, which is also referred to, is federal funding that goes into the United States for the prevention, assessment, investigation, prosecution, and potential treatment of those who have been victims of child abuse. And with this, I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses with CAPTA, with all its different legislation and reforms and amendments. But first, I would like to talk about a case that recently happened in 2017 in Oklahoma, where two twin baby girls who were no older than 8 months old had been abused by their parents. Their parents had been sentenced to 130 years in prison because of this abuse, because, end quote, it has been from nurses and doctors and police officers, been one of the worst case of child abuse they've ever seen. So their 9-month-year girls, the parents were Aslyn Miller and Calvin Fowler. They were no older than 25 years old. Um, and the twins were hospitalized in December following their parents' arrest because the babies were 8 months old, only weighing 8 pounds. The home was in terrible conditions. It was dirty. They had animal feces and maggots all throughout the house. The babies were dirty. The children had maggots in their playpens, had bed sores on their back from not being cleaned and not being picked up and just being laid out where they were at, and meaning that they were infected with different all types of infections as well. And sorry if it looks off. I am reading and looking at my notes as well. The babies were emaciated and they had maggots in their wombs as well. So, also, there has been recommended that their grandparents, the paternal grandparents, have also been charged with neglect and abuse and enabling the neglect and abuse by not stepping in and stopping. And then the paternal grandmother as well has been charged with counts of neglect and abuse. And my so with the strengths and weaknesses with this case and how this case applies with CAPTA is that where was the investigation? Why weren't doctors reporting that the babies at within the first year of a child's life, they are required by doctors to be seen when they're newborns. At least with my siblings, they were at the doctor once a week, and then went to once every 2 weeks to check on their weight, their height, how they're feeding well, how they're sleeping, diaper changes, how many, just to see what, like, if they're regular bowel movements, to see how they're feeding, how they're eating, how they're gaining weight, because they need to chart and to have proof of their growth, and to see to make sure the child is not in an dangerous environment. The parents are feeding them, keeping them clothed and cleaned, things of that nature. So the parents, so my with this, so yes, CAPTA does provide different states with the funding to go and to investigate, but within that, with the on the back end of that, the weaknesses of that is that where were the caseworkers and the social workers when doctors were reporting, or if doctors were even reporting, when the doctors were reporting that the babies hadn't been in to be seen in a couple of weeks? Or why was anybody going into, why did it lead up to the babies being 8 months, 9 months old and being emaciated? 9 months old should be chubby, their cheeks should be nice and rosy, and should be fed healthy. 8 months, they shouldn't be 8 pounds, the same as a normal birth weight for certain babies. They shouldn't be 8 pounds at 8 months old. 8 months, you know. So within CAPTA, that's one of the weaknesses with it. There aren't any, and it also supports like getting more research into different ways of prevention and helping and preventing and getting families like the necessary parenting skills and classes that they need. But also, where was this at when these kids are all obviously being neglected. We're the caseworkers. So with this assignment, this made me think about like what I want to do personally with social work, with my degree, and I want to go into policy change and reform, and I want to be the change that we see within the social profession. I want to go into strengthening and bettering policy so these things don't go um, unseen. These things don't happen as often as have. There are too many cases of child abuse and neglect for children, for new infants, for teenagers that just go unseen and unknown because our caseworkers and social workers are underpaid, overworked, and this just spread too thin and burning out within 2 years of being in the profession, whether they're at the BSW level or the MSW level. I So for policy change, I would definitely go in and ask for more money, for more funding. Go into have better educating and giving more resources to our social workers and our caseworkers so that when they see red flags don't go ignored even though they won't be spread so thin that this one caseworker is getting 50 and 60 cases versus and then that one case that 50 the 61st case was the case of the 9-month-old babies that this could have been prevented. This could have been sawn in the first month of their lives, rather than it being 8 months later and they're still not being fed. They're sickly now. They have to, they can't digest food the correct way. They have to be now, like breathing beer on feeding tubes. Now they should just get their way to survive potentially. Um, So yeah, I would just like to. That's what I would like. So the strengths of this case is that with this policy is that it did give money and resources and more means to better investigate, but there's still a lack of investigation of these cases. And with that, we just need to do better with our social. We need to better support our social workers and better prepare them, and then so we can then attract more people into the profession, so we won't have this small pool of people doing all this much work because it's on our shoulders to do intervention, to work with families, to you know provide recommendations for treatment, to then go in and be the ones who are going to fight for policy reform, creating policies at that. So we just need to better prepare and better equip our the social work people and the professionals and people who are in profession or going into profession so they know like what to look out for so these cases do not happen anymore. Um, so thank you. That's what I looked into the cases, what my opinions are, backed up by some facts. This case was very sad, but it also shines light into like where the flaws in the CAPTA policy is holds. Thank you.